few months ago, if you told me this was Uganda, I wouldn't have believed you. I honestly didn't expect it to look like this. I always thought East Africa has mostly savanna landscapes. Now, don't get me wrong, Uganda does have areas that look like the savannah. The landscape in Uganda is incredibly diverse. But for the most part, especially in the south, it's lush, green, and vibrant. What you're seeing in this clip, this is southern Uganda, around the Bwindi area. Here, I was coming from Bweza Lodge. That's where I stayed the night before. And here, I was going to the gorilla trekking starting point. I arrived in this region quite late the night before. I was coming from Murchison, which is up north of the country. So I didn't get to see the landscape until the morning. When I finally saw it, I was completely speechless. If you know me, you know I love landscapes like this. I don't think I can even use the word love. These sort of deep green landscapes, they give me a sense of comfort, which I really cannot explain. It's just always been that way. So this area is actually very close to Rwanda. The land is very hilly, so the roads do go round and round, up and down the hills. And you get to enjoy these beautiful views. That actually rhymes. But anyway, the only downside is that the roads in this area are not paved, so when it rains, the roads need to be maintained, and usually the people who only care are the hotel owners or the staff. They maintain the roads to make sure the guests do travel safely, but then again, they can only do so much. So it's really easy for a car to roll down the hill here, especially if it's been raining and the roads are already in a bad condition. We had to stop so many times because when we were driving around this area, we just had to get out and fully take in the views. Uganda stays green all year round. This is because of its tropical climate and two rainy seasons. In the south, the rainfall is higher because of Lake Victoria and evaporation, while in other areas like the highlands, it's because of its high elevation. Being surrounded by so much lush, vibrant shades of green honestly felt like it changed my brain chemistry. It was so calming and pleasant. And this, it just looks like a page out of a children's storybook. Now, I think around this area, we were out of the Bwindi region, and most of the clips are still in the south. I just don't know exactly where. I was just recording what I thought was beautiful. And this was actually my first time seeing a tea farm or field. It just looks so pretty. In the south of Uganda, you also get to see a lot of these crater lakes. Apparently, they are volcanic and they were formed by past explosive eruptions. Also, just an observation, there's so many banana trees in Uganda. Even in these clips, you can see they're almost everywhere. I also noticed that the trees were more concentrated in the south. So why so many banana trees, you ask? Well, this is because one of the staple foods in Uganda is actually green bananas. And the green bananas are called matoke. They're quite different from the typical banana you might have in your country. These ones are quite starchy, so they are used the way you would use potatoes, rice, things like that. So the trees are really everywhere, and in my opinion, they actually make the landscape look even more beautiful. So almost every house we drove past had some kind of banana trees, either on the front, side, back. They were just everywhere. As we were driving near the equator, yes, the equator does pass through Uganda, And here we saw so many elephants. Some were quite far and actually really hard to capture on camera, but I did see a lot of them. The thing is, we weren't even trying to see any wild animals, we're just on the road and the animals were just there. And I really loved that about Uganda. And you see what I meant when I say Uganda has some areas that has a savannah type of landscape. And casually we found a hippo. I still cannot believe this actually happened. And these guys on the motorcycle, they didn't even care that there was a hippo just right on the side of the road. So I'm guessing this is normal in this area. I noticed that on these big buses, almost all of them had some kind of religious symbols at the back. Some were Christian and some were Muslim. Some even had their favorite football team posters, which I thought was really interesting. I'm guessing the decorations do depend on the owner's belief system or their interests. And since bananas are life in Uganda, you will see them on top of buses, motorbikes, and more. This was in Entebbe, and in Entebbe, when you're driving in some areas, you will see the largest lake in Africa, Lake Victoria. This is because Entebbe sits on a peninsula, so parts of the road network run close to the shoreline. This is the north of Uganda around Murchison. The landscape is very different from the south. It has features of the savannah, it's open, flat, and the grass dominates the landscape. And one thing I have to say is that even though it looks like the savannah, the climate is not. The climate is still tropical, just like the south. Here, it's just a bit more drier than the south. I just want to say as well that the main roads in Uganda are good, so most of the driving went smoothly. So that was from Murchison to Bwindi, Entebbe to Kampala. Of course, it's a bit more difficult if you go in roads, but on the main roads, the roads are good. We drove past this market as well. You could buy anything here, live cows, goats, chickens, anything. Oh, and the rain in Uganda is heavy. They get really heavy rains in Uganda. This was when we just entered the Murchison Falls National Park. It's huge. It's about 3,840 square kilometers. When you enter the protected area in Murchison, you will see a lot of birds and monkeys. I actually saw these guinea fowls. They're quite different from the other guinea fowls I've seen in other countries. These ones had a different pattern from the usual ones with tiny dots. Like these ones. I think these ones with the dots are the most common because I've seen them in both Namibia and Malawi. And in Murchison, I saw both. The other ones with a different pattern and these ones with the dots. Now, these birds, I'm not even sure what they were. And the baboons could actually slow you down as well because sometimes they're just sitting on the road. And you can't do anything about it because you're not allowed to, chase them off or try to do something that's going to disrupt them. Here, I spotted an albino baboon. Apparently, this is very rare. And it was actually my first time seeing one as well. There were actually 2 albino baboons. One of them actually did run off to the bushes once the car came closer to them. So yeah, the landscape in Murchison, even though it's green, it's still not as green compared to the south of the country. This still seems to be more like the savannah type, as you can see. It's very open, whereas in the south, it felt like a dense jungle, not just an open plain, if that makes sense. And driving in Kampala, I think they should use this as part of a citizenship test because I don't think anybody can just drive in Kampala. It's just crazy. And actually on my Kampala video, a lot of people kept commenting that they call this organized chaos because there's just so much going on the road. And to get me around Uganda from Murchison to Bwindi, Entebbe to like Kampala, we used DAV tours. So they do have set tours, but you can also customize your own. I highly recommend this tour company. I think everything went really well, and the drivers were really cool and professional. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.